Like MacArthur, we have returned. Painless. All you got to do is listen to a commercial or two, and radio is free. Gotta love that, right? You know, the idea that we as a nation have some sovereignty and issues about which we should be respectful and is the foundation of our nation. And the fact that, you know, this administration is not slowly dismantling it, but wholesale slaughter of the, you know, they are tearing the armor off of our government. They're tearing the armor off of our nation. That armor that defends us from attacks, both physical and spiritual and human rights and economic. They're tearing that right off of us and discarding us, leaving our nation undefended and vulnerable. One area in which they're doing that is the area of immigration and amnesty. There was an article out there this morning by Daniel Horowitz on Red State. What happens when the opposition party is so committed to implementing amnesty to the extent that they are willing to destroy their own base? The president will take the prerogative to implement amnesty on his own without fear of reprisal. I never thought we'd live to see the day when the rule of law is suspended by administrative fiat to the point that Democrats openly tout their illegal plan. And then he gives an example here of Chuck Schumer, one of the leaders of the Senate's Gang of Eight that pushed through a comprehensive immigration package last year, said it's clear where the issue of immigration reform is heading. Quote, "We can either help pass comprehensive reform, which will greatly reduce the flow of illegal immigrants." Really? "Grow our economy by bringing in needed workers in high-tech and agricultural areas, and provide a hard-earned path to eventual citizenship for the 11 million in the shadows. Or they can sit idly by and watch the president greatly curtail deportations while 11 million continue to live in limbo here in America." With all due respect, Chuck, why is it suicide or death as the two alternatives? I mean, anyway, he goes on to say, "Indeed, Obama has already ordered a review of deportations and has transferred DHS funding from a border fence to increase salaries for bureaucrats. This comes on the heels of the president's pledge that Obamacare signups will not be used to track down illegals for deportation." First of all, as I recall, they weren't even supposed to be allowed to sign up for Obamacare. What's even more appalling than Democrats openly bragging about flaunting the law and violating our sovereignty is the complete callous disregard by Republicans. What if citizens would stop paying taxes or refuse to participate in Social Security? If the executive branch can countermand a law of Congress, why can't the voters? Those who grant Congress its authority do the same. The irony is that we are all compelled to obey laws that we don't like, even those of dubious constitutional authority. Yet the president is able to disobey one of the few core functions of the federal government while granting handouts to those who come and stay here illegally. Senator Sessions has compiled a full list of actions this president has taken to violate laws passed by Congress and erase our borders while endangering our national security. Yet, instead of spending millions on ads educating the public about Obama's malevolent and imperial actions, they are actually spending millions promoting Obama's open border agenda in an appallingly deceptive manner. Groups like FWD, run by McConnell allies, are running ads attacking House Republicans for not supporting amnesty. Parting question: if Obama feels like he can act unilaterally to alter America even before the midterm elections, what will stop him from pushing the envelope after November when he officially becomes a lame duck? Well, kudos to Mr. Horowitz. First and foremost, kudos to him for having the courage to say what most of these other sycophants in the news and the media will not say. and to outline very clearly some of the areas in which we are seeing the complete and utter degradation of the rule of law in our country. The wholesale slaughter of the armor of our sovereignty, both as a state, both as a nation, and as individuals, ultimately, is being stripped from us by a group of individuals that, for all intents and purposes, are not doing the will of the people. Opinion polls out there are clear about this. The American people don't think amnesty is an issue. So why is Congress so desperate to pass that which everyone says, hey, let's put that somewhere down on the priority list around 802,000? We've got 801,999 things before that we need to do, including giving our own citizens jobs and making sure that we get government out of the way so that industry can move forward. But Congress isn't focusing on that. They're spending all their political capital, all their energy, trying in an election year of all things to strip the rule of law, strip our sovereignty as a free nation with legitimate concerns about our international borders. And for what? I'm going to tell you why. Because they are desperate. They are desperate to do the job they've been paid to do. Mark my words. This is not some altruistic desire by Mitch McConnell and the other Republicans and John Boehner and the other ilk of traitors in the House. Nor is this a desire to be morally and ethically correct and stand up to the illegal issue by the Senate. What this is a group of people who have been paid well and good, who are now being told by their benefactors and their bosses, you will pass this because we want it. We want it because it gives us an opportunity to push down wages across the board. Because if you, an American, have to compete with a brand newly minted new American for the same $8 or $12 or $23 an hour, then we get to lower the bar for everybody. And that benefits our bottom line. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. That's what immigration's about. That's what all the push is about. That's why corporate America's pushing it. That's why Congress is licking their boots. Congress has been paid. And now they've got to do the job. You know, think of it like this. If you're a hitman and for the mob and you take the hit and you fail to do it, you got to go back and answer. And the guy says, hey, I told you, I gave you that 50 grand. Now I expect you to complete the job. And if you don't, there's going to be consequence. See, now Congress is standing there all sheepish saying, well, you know, I really didn't think it would come to murder. I don't really care what you thought. Now get out there and do the job. You should have thought of that before you took my 50 grand. Right? So Congress is now sitting there, having never committed the murder before, but now openly engaging in the treason of their own country. How pathetic, how shameful, how morally bankrupt, how corrupt. The stench of death hangs about them like an aura. There's not a single one of them that is justified in their existence, much less their ability to sit there and lead. They represent us where? Show me. Give me some rationale for it. Prove it to me. Because I can't see one example where any of them are doing what is in our best interest as a nation. Your best interest as an individual. Your best interest as a parent, as a father, as a mother, as a worker, as a taxpayer. Where is it? It doesn't exist. Everything this Congress does is diametrically opposed to your well-being. See, the truth is, none of the rest of the people in media, with a few examples like Mr. Horowitz here, none of them want to voice the truth. None of them want to utter the T word. And I don't care whether you substitute treason or tyranny in there, it's both. None of them have the courage to stand up and say what's obvious to everyone watching. I don't mean me. I mean watching the events unfold in our nation. The president, this president, is engaged in treason. This Congress is engaged in treason. The judicial system is engaged in treason because they refuse to stop it. See, the truth is, you can call it whatever you want. You can come up with some fancy euphemism or some PC way to say it. You know, the rule of law. They're not adhering to the rule of law. This is lawless conduct on the part of our president, and we're going to have another committee meeting to determine exactly what we should do. We think we might have an opportunity to take them before the court, and you know, those justices over there. You'll make me sick. Not a single one of you in Congress has a right to remain. Not a one. I mean, you know, there are one or two out there. Trey Gowdy, it comes to mind immediately. But you know what? In order for you to have run, in order for you to have been elected, you had to accept campaign promises. You had to accept campaign election monies, and you had to accept it from something other than individuals. The truth of the matter is, unless this nation is determined to stop the treason, unless they are determined to go back to a point where the government's not going to pay any money towards anything that you do, that you are not entitled to take bribes, that you are not entitled to corporations to donate money to you, because corporations are not persons, and that nonsense coming out of the Supreme Court about corporations have personhood, that is a complete and absolute derelict lie. Corporations don't have personhood. If they did, you could put everybody working there behind bars for their transgressions. Couldn't you? The truth is, unless we get all of this out of government, our entire republic is destined for failure. It cannot stand. You know, I posted something up yesterday from Alexander Hamilton on our Facebook page. I'm going to read it to you. As riches increase and accumulate in few hands, as luxury prevails in society, virtue will be in a greater degree considered as only a graceful appendage of wealth, and the tendency of things will be to depart from the Republican standard. This is the real disposition of human nature. It is what neither the honorable member nor myself can correct. It is a common misfortunate that awaits our state constitution as well as all others. What did he mean by that? He wasn't talking about the Republican standard in terms of the parties. He was talking about the Republican standard of government. And what he's saying is that as riches increase and begin to get accumulated in limited numbers of individuals, as luxury begins to prevail in society, the virtue that is available will be considered as only a graceful appendage of that wealth. They will betray us for the lavish lifestyle, for the riches, for the ego. This is the real, and that they will depart from the principles of the Republican form of government. Could he have been more accurate, ladies and gentlemen? This is the real disposition of human nature. In other words, you can throw out any euphemisms you want out there, but no matter how you characterize it, this is real human nature. It is action and reaction. And it has always been so, and it will always be so. And that neither he nor anyone else in that body can correct that failing of human nature. Madison was clear about it as well. He pointed out, and he was talking here about property, he said, every new regulation concerning commerce or revenue or in any manner affecting the value of the different species of property presents a new harvest to those who watch the change and can trace its consequence. A harvest reared not by themselves, but by the toils and the cares of the great body of their fellow citizens. This is a state of things in which it may be said with some truth that laws are made for the few, not for the many. And the perfect example there is every one of these things which our government is doing to essentially strip us of the armor of that sovereignty. They pass these new regulations designed to improve world commerce at the effective destruction of our own commerce, to raise revenue for the world at the expense of drawing it from the pockets of Americans. I saw a post this morning on Drudge Report that the government this year has an all-out has broken the record on tax revenues. They're draining us dry. And what are they doing with it? Well, one of two things. Either they're squandering it or they're redistributing it. And as they redistribute, they make sure that they scrape their piece off the top. They're talking now about making sure that China and Russia get a crack at controlling the internet. What kind of idiocy is associated with that? Why would you allow China and Russia and Iran to have authority over the internet? You think that they're going to handle it in an objective and lawful way, not benefiting their own situations? Again, here we go with the stripping of America and the rule of law in a lawless environment. I mean, the internet is the Wild West. And here you're telling me that you're going to take 5 guys out of prison and you're going to put them as the sheriffs of the 5 most important towns we got. The heck are you thinking? Not to mention the fact that there's something to be said for the fact that Obama doesn't have any right to give away the domain supervision of the internet from the United States to any other body. It's not his to give. Who the heck does he think he is? I'm not saying that it shouldn't be that there shouldn't be a body of individuals that have input from all other countries that have an interest in the internet. And I openly agree that the internet should be, but if you think for a moment that places like China and Russia and Iran are going to treat their own people fairly, you got another thing coming. Once more, another unilateral amending of what? Our policy as a nation, or our laws as a nation, or the world. I mean, who the heck does this guy think he is? This is the most destructive rule that we have ever seen from any president at any time in our history. The truth of the matter is, he is dangerous. He is a clear and present and exigent danger to the United States of America. And these well-paid fat marshmallows sit up there on Capitol Hill, taking the bribe money, quietly shutting their mouths because they've been brought into a meeting and we're told, listen, here's what the president wants. And you know that you got to take care of this and you got to do the right thing. It's for the good of the country. And if all of that fails, don't forget we got those pictures. You got to be kidding me. Not to mention you took the money, remember? And, the president assures you that as this thing moves forward, you'll have a seat at the table. Don't worry. You and your family will be taken care of. If that's what our government is, and make no mistake about it, that is exactly what it is, then there is no reason for you or me to follow the law. In fact, I was talking to a fellow the other day, and he was saying to me, in our town, we're fighting this Common Core, and our school board doesn't care. They're going to implement it no matter what we say. And I said, you know what? Then go take over the doggone school. Get 300 parents and go lock the doors down and chain them shut, and then chain yourselves to the door and say, get the news media out here, get Fox and CNN and MSNBC, and get Color 10 from Springfield and KY3 News out here, and get them to videotape you as parents handcuffing yourself to the school. And say, you know what? We should take a lesson from the illegals. They're illegal. They're about to be deported when they're picked off, when they're finally cut away from the fence. And they do it without fear. You are sitting there saying, well, I don't want to get arrested. Why? Is your child's survival and his mental stability not worth that? I would defend my child to the death. Really? Then get out there and do it. Don't talk. Do. Go to your school board member and say, hey, you know what? Apply the same pressure. The truth of the matter is, it's going to come down to a fight. And it's going to come down to an ugly one. And the question here is whether or not you as an individual are going to be willing to stand up and take the risks that are necessary to take this country back. And I have to tell you, I'm losing faith in it being anything other than by force. Daily. Because I see the deluge of abuse. I see the deluge of treason. I see the torrent. And I see Americans standing around helplessly wringing their hands when what they should be doing is loading. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about why is being a black conservative a reason to be outcast from your own racial community. I've never seen anything more self-treasonous than that. Not by a group. We'll be right back.